This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. Helping you find emotional, spiritual, and physical balance. What does your future hold? It's time to find out with Psychic Suzanna.
Yes, you are right where you need to be. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. And this show is all about empowering you. And today we're going to empower you with the 5 languages of love. We'll talk to Dr. Gary Coleman. My mind is gone. Dr. Gary Chapman. He wrote the book, The 5 Love Languages. We'll discover them together. But this is the place you want to listen to so you can find out about how to make your life a little bit better. We're going to have authors on that'll empower you. We've got a great lineup coming on. Join us on Facebook at Life with Psychic Suzanna. You get the inside detail. Next week, we're going to be able to have you do some questioning on air of our listeners, or you can come to me through the internet next week, so we're excited about that. This week, if you want to listen to any shows, this show is going to be a wonderful show you're going to want to play back. You go to KFAB.com. It'll be up there on Tuesday, as all the other shows are up there. So, again, if you have a problem with an alcoholic in the family, go check out the show that talks about it. If you have a problem with disciplining your children, go to KFAB or PsychicSusanna.com and check it out and hear the hints that we're giving you. Today, we're going to give you hints about displaying love. Now, if you went to my website and if you went to KFAB, you notice love is just not between a man and a woman, but love is through your children to everyone that you come to. And as we talk to Dr. Gary Chapman, hello, Dr. Chapman.
Hello, Susanna. Good to be with you.
It's an honor to have you on the air. The book, The 5 Love Languages and How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to your mate. But after looking at the book, is this not a book that we could use to commit to all of the people in our lives with love?
Well, it is, Susanna. Actually, I wrote this for married couples, and then springing off of that book, I later wrote The 5 Love Languages of Children, The 5 Love Languages of Teenagers, The 5 Love Languages Singles Edition, all of them indicating that understanding the 5 love languages and learning another person's love language will enhance all human relationships.
And that's the prospect that I want to look at, because as we try to have a healthy commitment to our partners in life, how did you come up with the idea that there are 5 love languages? Where did that come from?
You know, the way I discovered that was in marriage counseling. I've been counseling for over 35 years, and I realized I was hearing the same stories over and over again. One of them would say in my office, I feel like my spouse doesn't love me. And the other would say, I don't know what else to do. I'm doing this and this and this, and they don't feel loved. What else can I do? So they were missing each other. And I knew there was a pattern. So I went through about 12 years of the notes that I had made when I was counseling people, and I asked myself the question, when someone said, I feel like my spouse doesn't love me, what did they want? What were they asking for? What were they complaining about? And their answers fell into 5 categories, and I later called them the 5 love languages. So that's how I came up with the 5.
And so when I love your test. You have the love language test online.
Yes.
And I took it, and I found out I like it when my husband does special things with me. Uh-huh. And he loves to be touched. Mm-hmm. So it's like we're talking a little bit of a different language there, which is, does everybody have their own love language? Does everybody receive love differently?
I think so, Susanna. I think it's very similar to spoken language.
Mm-hmm.
All of us grow up speaking a language with a dialect. I grew up, for example, speaking English, Southern style, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has a language and a dialect, and that's the one you understand best. Same thing is true with love. Out of the 5, one of them speaks more deeply to us emotionally than the other 4. So I call that your primary love language. Then there's a secondary, and then the others fall in line under that.
Okay. Now, if you're in a partner, and your partner has a different love language, different love signal,
yeah,
does that mean the marriage is doomed to failure?
Not at all, because as a matter of fact, seldom does a husband and wife have the same language.
Really?
It happens, but not very often.
Really?
And I think that's why so many people have missed each other. You know, when people get married, they're sincere. I mean, and they love each other, and they express love to each other. But once they come down off the emotional high of the in-love experience, if they're not speaking the right language, then the love tank gets empty, and they don't feel loved, even though in their own minds they're loving the other person. So I think because we speak different languages, it has caused a lot of couples to focus on their differences and their conflicts, and they end up arguing with each other, and the emotional love dies. But the good news is that once we discover the primary love language of each other, then we can choose to speak it, and we can learn to speak these languages. And when we do, it re-stimulates emotional love in that relationship.
You know, in my work, a lot of people come to me ready to leave.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I say is there is a purpose in the relationship, and you were in love at one time. Go back to that place. Is it hard to go back to that place of being totally in love with your mate? I mean, you know, life drags you down. You've got to take care of the kids. You've got to run them. You've got to have responsibility. Somebody's not handling the money well. Will this help us in our day-to-day life, you think?
You know, I think it does. And I think for some couples, if there's been a long string of things that have gone wrong and they've treated each other harshly, it's going to require apologizing and forgiving. They can't just start loving, you know, but they've got to apologize for failures and forgive each other. But I do think if they open themselves up to having a positive relationship by clearing out the debris, then learning to speak each other's language will begin to create a whole new emotional climate. I don't think we actually go back to that euphoric state, you know, where we just see each other as being perfect. But I do think that we meet each other's emotional need for love, which is the deepest need we have. And learning to speak the right language brings that emotional warmth back in the relationship. And once we feel secure in each other's love, we can handle the conflicts. We can solve the conflicts. We can work out the rest of life. It just makes life much easier if we both feel secure in each other's love.
All right. We're going to take a little break, Doctor, and we're talking to Dr. Gary Chapman, the author of the 5 Love Languages. Thank you. You're giving us a lot of good ideas. By the way, just between you and me, my husband of 34 years didn't know he was coming to visit, saw his car in my driveway, and my heart bounced.
All right.
So I believe in bouncing hearts. I really do.
Good.
We'll be right back with Dr. Gary Chapman in just a minute.
Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. She knew I was going to say that.
Yes, you are listening to 1110 KFAB, and this is Life with Psychic Suzanna. This is the show that takes you beyond your limits of your past, hoping to let you let it go and move forward in more peace and more joy. Today, we have an author on that I really enjoyed looking at his book. I enjoyed taking his test. We are talking to Dr. Gary Chapman. Welcome to the show, Dr. Chapman.
Thank you, Susanna.
I have to tell you, before I do any show, I like to research it. I like to look through the book and go through things. And, of course, I've taken the love languages test. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is I've had a couple clients who have taken that test.
Yeah.
And one client had been divorced a couple times. Mm-hmm. And she said it was the first time she realized, even though she had loving and supportive men, that they were not what she saw as being love. So we really do see love differently.
Well, we really do, Susanna, and I think I've had numerous people tell me when they have been divorced, or so many of them say we were next door to divorce when somebody gave us the book, the 5 Love Languages. We read it, and it was like the lights came on. We realized how we had missed each other through the years, and then we started trying it. Once we discovered our language, we started trying to speak it, And really, it saved our marriage. It turned the whole thing around.
It's interesting, and of all things, and I'm a huge follower of that golden rule that was in that big, beautiful book. But the golden rule does not work here with love, does it? Does it work in life?
No, it doesn't. The intention is fine. I mean, we should, do unto others as they have us do unto us. But in love, you have to learn to speak your love in the language of the other person, not in your own language. And that's what we typically do. Whatever makes me feel loved is what I tend to do for my wife. If words of affirmation is my language, I'm going to be giving her words. I'm going to tell her I love her. I'm going to say you look nice in that outfit. I'm going to tell her how much I appreciate her. But if acts of service happens to be her language, and I'm giving her words, she's not getting it. And it's just a matter of time. She's going to say to me, you say I love you, but if you really love me, why don't you do something to help me?
And that is where it comes in. Can we start going down the 5 love languages? And if you can give us an insight to what each language was. But can I just do a couple of your questions?
Sure.
First question is, I like it when you give me notes of affirmation, and I like it when you hug me. So those are 2 different people, correct?
Yeah, 2 different things, and so you have to choose between the 2. If
right.
You can only have one of them, which one would you take?
Okay.
And so you make 30 choices on that quiz, and then the quiz tells you what your love language is. So, it just puts you in situations with 2 options, but you can only choose one, and so it's going to show you the preference, the one that comes out ahead for you.
Okay. Tell me what the 5 love languages are.
Well, one of them is words of affirmation that I just mentioned. It's
okay.
Words to affirm the person. You look nice in that outfit. Really appreciate what you did. It can be about their personality. It can be something they've done for you, something about the way they look. You can speak the words. You can write the words. You could even sing the words. But it's using words to affirm the other person.
Sometimes I hear people say they say all the right words, but they don't do the action.
Yeah, and see, that means that words is not their love language.
Oh, I see how this works.
They appreciate the words. Words are fine, but it's actions, and that's another of the love languages, acts of service, doing something for them. In a marriage, that would be such things as cooking meals, washing dishes, vacuuming floors, cleaning the toilet, walking the dog, mowing the grass, changing the baby's diaper, anything that they would like for you to do. Acts of service. And for some people, you're exactly right. Actions speak louder than words.
And then,
not for everybody, but for some people, that is their love language, acts of service.
As I was talking to a few people, they said they were never so turned on as when their husband vacuumed their floor.
Yeah, absolutely. For those people, that is powerful.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And so then there's gifts. It's universal to give gifts as an expression of love. The gift says, she was thinking about me. He was thinking about me. Look what they got from me. Doesn't have to be an expensive gift. We've always said it's the thought that counts, but it's not the thought left in your head. It's the gift that came out of the thought in your head. So gifts, powerful communicator of love. And then number 4 is quality time, giving them your undivided attention. I don't mean sitting on the couch watching television together.
Okay.
Someone else has your attention.
All right.
It's sitting on the couch with the TV off, looking at each other, talking, interacting with each other, or taking a walk down the road, or going out to eat. But the focus is on each other. You have undivided attention. That's quality time, not simply being in the same room. And then number 5 is physical touch. We've long known the emotional power of physical touch. So in marriage, we're talking about holding hands and kissing and embracing and the whole sexual part of the marriage. And for some people, physical touch is their primary love language. So the key is out of the 5, you discover which one of those is most important for you. That's what I'm calling your primary love language. And then discover the primary love language of your spouse or your friend or your child or your teenager. And you choose to speak it. And when you do, it communicates to them on a deep emotional level, and they feel loved. If you don't speak it, you can speak some of the other languages, and they still won't feel loved.
So they don't know how to receive it if
That's right.
if you're not speaking the same kind of love language.
Yeah, that's right. They will appreciate it likely. Like you can give them a gift, and they will appreciate the gift, but it doesn't speak to the heart. There's something else they would much rather you do that would really speak to them.
If I can ask you, I know a couple of people that have been given in a dating and have been given overwhelming gifts, and they think, I don't know if I should take this. I don't know. Is there a problem also on the receiving end? Where would that fall into that? Because I find a lot of people don't know how to receive support.
Yeah, well, that's true. If a person did not get these languages growing up, and let's face it, many of us did not get all 5 of these, that would be ideal. With children, I say you give heavy doses of the primary. You also speak the other 4 because we would like the child to be able to receive love in all 5 languages and give love in all 5 languages. That's the healthiest adult. But not many of us got that.
All right.
So if you didn't receive, one of these languages growing up, and now you're an adult and somebody's trying to give it to you, you don't quite know how to receive it because you never received it before. So it can be a little difficult. But whatever your language is, if they speak that language, you're going to get it. You're going to receive it.
Okay. We're going to take another break. God bless the commercials. God bless our sponsors. We'll be right back with Dr. Gary Chapman. He is the author of The 5 Love Languages. He's teaching us how to communicate love a little bit better.
This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB.
Yes, you are right where you need to be. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna, the 1110 KFAB. Now, you can go to 1110 KFAB. You can listen to the show again and have people that you feel it will be helpful to listen to, because we're loving this interview with Dr. Gary Chapman. I also want you to know that the podcasts are also put on PsychicSuzanna.com. That's where you get a free question, by the way. This is the show that is going to take you into the future. This is the show that is going to help you understand your mate, help you understand yourself a little bit better. This is where you need to be to grow. And right now, we're going back with Dr. Gary Chapman. Dr. Chapman, before we go much farther, can you explain to us and tell us how we find you, how we get the love language test?
Yes, 5lovelanguages.com. You can spell out the word 5 or just put in the number 5, 5lovelanguages.com, and you can take the quiz. It's free.
Okay. And you also, when you take the quiz, I was amazed that you got your love test answers right away.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you're not holding back from us being supported. Now, your book has been thoroughly helpful to so many, I know. But you don't hold back. You're willing to serve us, and I so appreciate that. If we find the love language, how do we now? Are we able to talk to you? You're on Facebook. I've seen your Facebook postings.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very impressive. Is there anything that you want to tell us that on contacting you, a number or anything else, or?
No, I think 5lovelanguages.com is the best way.
Okay, all right. And then your books are in every market. How many languages did I read your books?
They've been translated. That book has been translated now into 39 languages around the world. 39 languages. Did you ever believe when you started it would be 39 languages? Never anticipated that, Suzanne. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that surprised me, because my academic background is anthropology and cultural anthropology. And I understand the differences between cultures. So I was really surprised when the Spanish publisher came, first of all, and said, we'd like to publish it in Spanish. And I said, I don't know if this works in Spanish, Mm-hmm. They said, we've read it, and it works. I said, okay. So they translated it, and it became their bestseller.
Wow.
And then came the German and the French and on down the line. And almost everywhere it's been published, it has become the bestseller in that country for the publisher. So I think it speaks to the fact that the need for love is universal. And if you're married, the person you would most like to love you is your spouse. In fact, if you feel loved by your spouse, the world looks bright. But if you don't feel loved, the world can begin to look dark. And I think because it addresses that deep need, and so many couples have tried it, it's helped them, and then they share it with their friends. And I think that's why the book has done so well.
Okay. We're going to be holding you over for a little bit. When we come back, I want you to tell me how you have implemented this in your life, how you suggest we all implement love in our life.
Okay.
I also, before I go, we want to ask you, when you fill out the love language test, has anybody ever, cheated or, I mean, are people really open and honest? Because this looks too simple.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sorry, it looks too simple.
Yeah.
I'm thinking every time I take a test, I sort of want to, I'm wondering what I should put here, but these questions are really simple.
Yeah, but you're not impressing anyone except yourself, because nobody else is going to see your test. It's just for you,
Mm-hmm.
So if you just honest answer, which of those two things would you choose? If you only can have one of them, which would you choose? If you honestly answer it, you get an honest reading on what your love language is.
And I want to tell you a question number 15, which I thought was really cool. I like it when you compliment my achievements, is one answer. Or the other question, the other one is, I know you love me when you do things for me that you don't enjoy.
Yeah. So one is words of affirmation, and the other is acts of service. Which would you choose?
Wow. This is just so supportive for us, so supportive. We will come back in a few minutes. Is it about time to leave? I'm trying to watch the time clock, and I can't. Yep. And we're going to come right back at talking to Dr. Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages. You go to the website, the 5 love languages. You can write it or spell it. And we'll figure out how to express heartfelt commitments. We'll be right back with Gary Chapman. Yes, you are right where you need to be. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna on 1110 KFAB. Now you can find us at PsychicSuzanna.com, which it tells you where I'm going to be this week. Here in town, yes, Barley's tomorrow night. And then you can go to 1110 KFAB, hear all the shows that we have on. This show tonight is one that is guiding you through all of your love questions, I believe. And what we want you to know, though, is we are going to be taking your calls at 8:15, and the number is 1-800-543-1110 or 558-1110. So you can get on the phone. We'll put you on hold as we go back to Dr. Gary Chapman. He is the author of the 5 love languages. In the first half an hour, he explained how the love languages are, what they are, and how we can have it. The test is live at his, you can take it now. You can go on his line down and download it. It's called the Love Language Test. The answers are there. Dr. Gary has told me that there's no right and wrong. You want to be honest. And also the book. The book has some great stuff in it that you cannot get. So I really suggest the book. And if you know someone, like in the family, who is going through a crisis time, and if you know people that are discussing it, give this book out. This is going to be, what you can do. There's a mountain of stuff we can get in books to help us to get better, and this is one of them I highly recommend. I want to thank Rick Nobley for recommending this book to me because I couldn't figure out what to do on this show the day before, the day we show our love. The 5 love languages, how to express heartfelt commitment. Go to the website, 5 Love Languages. And right now we're talking to Dr. Gary Chapman. Dr. Chapman, before we go and asking you a few more questions, as I understand this, how long have you been practicing what you do?
I've been doing marriage and family counseling for 35 plus years now.
And have you? Are you a man who walks his own talk? Or you and your wife have your first marriage?
First marriage, and this summer, August, we will reach the 50-year mark together.
Oh my Lord! How wonderful! How wonderful!
To be very honest with you, Susanna, we had a lot of struggles in the early years, and that may be why I do what I do. I'm empathetic with people who are going through difficulties because we had our own difficulties, and we were very different. We are very different, and It took us, and I didn't know anything about the love languages in those days. In fact, I didn't know anything about anything. So we had a lot of struggles, and I have a lot of hope for people who are struggling because I know what we went through, and I know that we eventually found answers, and I just believe there's hope for people. And so I think this book captures, part of that hope, namely how to keep emotional love alive in the relationship.
Well, and one of the things that I think is so important in marriages and marriages is that commitment, the commitment to work with it. And when you have children, do you have children, by the way?
We do. We have two. They're both grown, and one of them has children, so we have grandchildren.
So I think especially with children, you have to honor the children enough to look for help.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I wrote the book, the second book in this series called The 5 Love Languages of Children, because I think basically we would say all parents love their children, but not all children feel loved. And it's not enough for parents to be sincere. We have to learn the child's love language. And if you don't, you can be sincerely loving your child, but they will not feel loved. So this interfaces also with the child's learning. That is, the child will learn better if they feel loved. And that's why many public schools are now using this book, The 5 Love Languages of Children, in teacher workshops. Because teachers know that if the child feels loved by the teacher, the child's going to learn more from the teacher. So it interfaces with learning. It also interfaces with discipline. If the child doesn't feel loved and you discipline them, they don't receive it in a positive way. But if they feel loved, if you're speaking their language and they feel loved, they see it as correction. I deserve this. I need to learn this. And it also interfaces with the child's anger. If the child doesn't feel loved, the child's going to exhibit more anger. And if they do feel loved, they will exhibit less anger. So it's not a cure-all for everything. And I'm not saying if you love them effectively, children will always obey and, that. No, I'm not saying that. I am saying the child's deepest emotional need is the need to feel loved. And as parents, if we take the time to discover the child's love language and give them heavy doses of that love language, that child's going to grow up in a much healthier manner.
Now, when you're talking about giving this book for teachers, the question is, what if you have someone even like a coworker that you don't get along with, and you don't know why you don't get along? I always say I'm so sweet and lovable. I can't understand why people don't love me.
Yeah.
They're all mixed up. What's wrong with them? So the question is there a way we can do this with the coworkers? Are there signals in their action and in their words that we can tell?
I think so. I think two or three ways you can discern what the love language is of a coworker. One is observe their behavior. If they're always patting people on the back or giving people hugs, then physical touch is probably their language. They're speaking to others what they wish others would speak to them. Or if they're always giving words of affirmation or encouraging words, then that's probably what they want, is words of affirmation. So observe their behavior. That's the first clue.
Okay.
Second clue, what do they complain about? If they make complaints, if they say, you don't ever offer to help anybody, they're telling you that acts of service is really what they would like. Or if you go on a business trip and come home or come back to work and they say, you didn't bring me anything? They're telling gifts. I thought you would think about me and get me a gift.
So it even in a joking way, it could be a signal.
Sure,
okay.
Absolutely. And then what do they request of you most often?
Okay.
If they are often asking you to help them, when you go to the office, would you pick up this for me? If they're asking you to help them, then acts of service is very likely what they would desire. If they're requesting lunch with you, if they say, we have lunch together, or let's take our break together. If they're the kind of person that's asking for that quality time, then that's their love language. So if you put those three things together, observing their behavior, how they treat others, what they complain about, and what they request most often, you can pretty well figure out what is their primary love language.
Okay, so if my coworker doesn't like to go out to eat with me,
then quality time is probably not their love language.
So, okay.
See,
All
they
right.
feel uncomfortable with that. That's not. They don't feel good with that one-on-one, where they have to talk and have to listen. So quality time is probably not their love language.
So it's not an insult to you if someone doesn't understand the way you're coming at them. It's just that they don't know how to receive the information.
Yeah, it's more of a revelation about them. If they don't want to go out for lunch and don't enjoy going out to lunch, you just have to know that's telling you something about them, not about you. It's that they don't want that kind of quality time. Their language may be words of affirmation. They would appreciate it if you just said a positive word to them, but not engage in a conversation. They don't feel comfortable with that.
Oh, how interesting that is, because it can also help us to work with our coworkers all the time.
Yeah. And I deal with this subject in the book, The 5 Love Languages Singles Edition, and I talk about how this, for the single adult, how this relates to their parents, their siblings, their roommates, their coworkers, which we're talking about now, as well as their dating partners, because I think single adults would profit greatly from understanding this concept and applying it to all of their relationships.
So a single, let me go with this, a single, would it be supportive for them to read this book or find, what was the book that you have?
The 5 Love Languages Singles Edition. That's the one that's specifically geared to singles. And the reason I wrote that book, I had so many singles say to me, I know you wrote your original book for married couples, but I read it, and it helped me in all my relationships. Why don't you write one for us? So that's what motivated me to write the book for singles, is because they read the original book and applied it themselves, So it's been very encouraging to see a lot of singles, say that it helped them reconnect with their parents, for example, because a lot of single adults didn't feel love growing up, and there's a distance between them and their parent. And if they learn the parent's love language and choose to speak it, they can bridge the gap and reconnect with those parents.
So could be very cathartic, because a lot of adults are still wounded by their parents.
Absolutely.
Because they don't understand their parents' love language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I gave Suzanne, I gave this lecture once in a prison, and I said, I'd like to explain to you, it was all men, I said, I'd like to explain to you why you either felt loved or didn't feel loved growing up. And so I explained the 5 love languages, and we all have a different love language, and that either their parents spoke their language or didn't speak their language. When I finished, there was a young guy, I guess he was probably 30, would be my judge. He said, I want to thank you for coming, because for the first time in my life, I finally understand my mother loves me.
Wow.
He said, as you were lecturing, I realized that my love language is physical touch, but my mother never touched me. He says, as a matter of fact, the only hug I ever remember getting from my mother was the day I left for prison. He said, but you gave those other love languages, and my mother spoke acts of service. She was a single mom. She worked hard to feed us and keep our clothes clean. She was always doing things for us. And he said she was loving me, and I didn't get it. But today, I get it. She loves me. She loves me.
Well, how catharsis that can be.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it can really help single adults be reconnected to their parents.
Marvelous. I am honored that you have graced our show, KFAB, with your presence. Dr. Gary Chapman, thank you for coming on with us. The author of 5 Love Languages. Please go to the website, 5 Love Languages. Take the test. Figure out how you receive and ask for the support you need. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with your calls at 1-800-543-1110 or 558-1110. This is where I get time to love you up here. Give us a call.
Psychic Suzanna.
Can't get through on the radio show? Call Psychic Suzanna anytime at 712-276-9349. That's 712-276-9349. Or visit her webpage, PsychicSuzanna.com.
Okay, you're right where you need to be to grow. This is the place we grow on 1110 KFAB. This is Life with Psychic Suzanna. You stay tuned. You're going to grow with us as we learn from great authors that we have on. Dr. Gary Chapman was phenomenal. Please go back and listen to the show. Heal yourself. Work on understanding your mate. You know, I must tell you, this past a couple of years ago, I broke my femur, and having a life partner who would be there for me was a blessing beyond belief. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to share our lives with our children, our family. So take a look at Dr. Gary Chapman's book. It was phenomenal. And then I'm going to also want you to go to PsychicSuzanna.com. If you have a question, you can ask your question. It's always free.